Calling all sword fighters, yo, what is good? My anime faithful, what is good, yo? Sword Art Online, my lord. We are getting some hype stuff from Sword Art. I think Sword Art shines the most when it has characters on display that don't really have that big of important roles. And I only say that because it doesn't feel like any of these characters can really have a chance of just making it out because of, who they are or what they've already shown, besides maybe Alice, right? Like, Alice, even Alice, in my opinion, is kind of on the fence. I mean, sure, she's somewhat a part of the title, but all it really takes is a couple of crazy things to pop off, and just like one of our other main characters that never seemed like he would be taken out, he straight up had to sacrifice himself. And Alice almost does around the same thing by using so much of her energy, and then not only that, she's straight up going back on the battlefield in the front line. Like, she didn't just do the most work that anyone's seen done thus far. So it's crazy to think that, oh my god, Asta, you're gonna catch Sasuke. Oh, you're not. It's crazy to think that this actually popped off this way. Like, this was a very hype overall battle, and it has me pretty mind blown to think how far we've come from the beginning of the show to where we are now, and everything that kind of comes with that. We've seen so much different abilities, we've seen so many different types of characters rise and fall. Now we're in a position where whoever kind of takes this battle is going to change the whole entire world inside of this place for the better or the worse. And I can't really tell what the goal is at the end of the day with all this, right? Like, they're all fighting each other to all be in a better position. Like, you know what I mean? Like, a better position to rule, a better position to have power. Because as we see, the dark elf girl, she thought she was going to go ahead and whatever she was going to do, she was going to be the god, empress, right? Like, she had plans to go far after all this was said and done. And it's like, where does that, where does that come from? Like, why did you believe that was even possible, And then you get these instances where you just feel like, oh yeah, they're really just talking out their butts. Like, you really just can't tell. Let's go, second place! Oh my god, I'm so sorry for being loud. um, but yeah, I really do appreciate how many different things have been just popping off in general with this show. Um, Not only have we seen, some of the strongest people kind of show up and push forward narratives that would relatively, scare most, but I don't know how I feel about where all this is going in Sword Art. Like I said, someone who wins this overall battle, this overall just thing in general, where does it lead after that, right? Like, where does anybody who actually wins take their prizes, where, what do they want from this is more or less what I'm trying to say as well. So I hope you guys are as curious as me, because I will be looking into it slash like waiting for it as long as possible to see what really the outcomes are about to become, because I'm pretty hype as a whole to see anything come out of Sword Art at this point, because all the characters are relatively up for grabs when it comes down to not being really prominent and having these giant roles that you can see them fulfill later on in the series. Like, for instance, one of my favorite characters is the blue-haired guy, and he seemed like he was everybody in the position of seeing that curse attack coming was 100% up for grabs in the death situation, right? Like, I felt like anybody could have gone at any time, but because nobody went, besides someone that wasn't even on the front line. It seemed weird to me. And it also seemed like it strengthened my what I said, because as soon as that happens, we're losing someone that seemingly, had a good life and wanted to live much longer, instead of some people who we don't know anything about their ambitions, anything about their goals, anything about what they want in the future. They took out someone that we knew exactly what they wanted in the future. He had enough dialogue and information about him on screen that he was clearly worth dying off, so we'll see how all this plays out. The show being really good at just showing off their prowess, like they're really good at showing empathy and showing a lot of emotion through these characters that, a lot of people probably don't really care about in the regards of what happened to a lot of them. But at the end of the day, if you could make it conveying and like you can actually make it worth talking about, then you've already done a really good job of making side characters. And I don't think a lot of people make a lot of good side characters in general. Ones like in Dragon Ball Z, where they just became a burden more than they became any type of help. Stuff like that. It usually drives me up a hill with side characters being made nowadays. They're just those characters that were supposed to help our main character either surpass his limits because he saw his friends get hurt, or sometimes if you have a really good show, you have to use both of those characters to get a victory because the challenge was so immense in front of them. So it's stuff like that that, truly kind of tells you what story you're gonna be getting into and what could pop off in the future. Because for me, I didn't know what we were gonna get, and then to see this pop off the way that we did, it was obvious that there was going to be more stuff that I just didn't expect to happen in Sword Art. So I'm pretty ready for that. We know that Alice understands she's wanted for some reason, for whatever reason, by the leader. Like, this war was started to pretty much capture her and stuff like that. So she's, of course, on board to give herself up and make sure this war ends as quickly as possible, compared to drawing it out and allowing people to continuously lose their lives, including ones of her apprentice that really hits home on her, and she goes forward to unleash some devastating damage. So Alice definitely not one to be tampered with, and I love that aspect about her, and I hope that continues to grow, even though she's used so much of her armament enchantment. You would think after seeing her apprentice fall, right? So she is dual wielding, maybe the whip and the sword like he was, so we might see a little bit of his fighting style through Alice, seeing how they really shafted him. Like, I didn't expect him to die because he didn't show anything on the battlefield, and then when he did show something on the battlefield, it was the last thing he was going to show us. So Sword Art's pretty not forgiving to characters who go against Kimito. And to talk about Kimito, did anyone else see the hand that patted him on the back to keep going up higher? Almost as if it was Kimito being like, yeah, just make sure you go a little bit further so you make sure all my friends survive and you die. I mean, the man was at negative HP and he was still going upwards. So if that's not some weird game breaking stuff, I don't know what is. But not only did he go negative, he survived long enough to see Alice with no legs. No legs. But yeah, overall, we're definitely in for a treat with Sword Art, and I definitely want to hear what you guys are thinking about it. I don't know if it's the craziest season of Sword Art ever, but it's getting up there, right? Like, it's getting pretty ridiculous at this point, and I'm loving it. So, all that being said, have an amazing one, guys. I will definitely talk to you in the next one. So, with all that being said, peace.